Good night. Good night, Labour Party family. They give me a Ralph Thorne microphone here. It's little floppy. It's not standing firm. Not standing firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin tonight by asking you, as I believe all of the predecessors on this platform have done, to give your support to our friend, our comrade, our brother, Neil Rowe. And to ask you that on the 11th of February, not the 12th, the 11th, that you find yourself in the that you find yourself in the polling stations to ensure that Neil finds himself in the Parliament of Barbados. And I'm here this evening with a very short message because we are way past our closing time. And I don't want to be talking to you tomorrow morning. I want you all to be able to go along home. And don't use me as an excuse, gentlemen, for not finding yourself home. You say, you know, some people say, I get home. I only know come home because Kerrie Symmonds, they start talking. Yeah. I know what's happened, you know. But tonight, my friends, we have to set the record straight in this country. And I've seen something go around in a WhatsApp. Interestingly enough, a man that called for an election, I am holding here a Democratic Labour Party manifesto. Do you get one too? So it get leaked. Now this man that say he ready for an election, I want to run your country and mine, got a manifesto that he launching Sunday night, but I reading from it Friday night. This man that say he ready for an election and tell me a motley call an election that won't run your country and mine. And yet let we start. He's going to introduce question time in Parliament in order to strengthen scrutiny and accountability. But since they had a Parliament of Barbados, Ralph Thorne, they had question time. And it has been used, Ralph Thorne, by every leader of the opposition except one. Guess who the one was? Ralph Thorne? It was you. Every one of them have been able to ask parliamentary questions of us, the government. It was created by law so that you would have a leader of the opposition that will say, Minister, explain why ABC happened, how much, whatever the thing is, whatever, they like to talk about that. Ask him, then the Minister of Finance, to speak to the Parliament about whatever the debt issue is. Hey, Ralph Thorne got as issue number one in this monkey manifesto that get leaked 3 days before he come into St. John to launch it, that he want to do what happened in Barbados since Eric Barr was Prime Minister. Brother Donny, you could get one of your horses. One of your horses would do a better job, sir. Not even a good horse. One of them that ain't thoroughbred. One with a bright foot. But no, my friends, this is what we are being reduced to. A launch of a manifesto, supposedly in Sunday, I think it is, in St. John. Because, you know, everything now is about him and everything is about his interests. So it ain't gonna happen in Bridgetown where Mr. Barr would have gone, or where Mr. Thompson would have taken them, or where Frenda Stewart would have carried them. But he doing it up in St. John because St. John is the most accessible part of Barbados. And St. John is the place where, as a norm, all of Barbadians would congregate in order to have major political discussion. Only Ralph Thorne could be so self-centered. And I want to say to you tonight that that tells you a little bit about that political party and where it is now. I heard Ian Gooding telling you, which is true, that the man that running down here is running his own campaign. He done with them and finished with that, and he doing his own thing. The got a man down by me who is completely disinterested in party politics anymore. His interest is to fend off the marshals who have asked him to leave what party live and waste the time. And so on and on and on it goes. But while that massive confusion has been confronting us, we have to deal with what happens on the 12th of February when a new government is formed. We have to deal with what your future must look like. And if you go to our real manifesto, which is that of the Barbados Labour Party, you see we continue to map out a strategy for the development of the people of this country. And you've heard me repeatedly speak about what I believe is fundamental about these things here, these units here. And I don't know how many people spoke about them tonight, but in case it has not been said, I'm going to say no. And if it has been said before, well, I can say again, so that you don't forget to tell your friends, to tell your neighbors, to tell your friends, neighbors in other parts of Barbados that the Labour Party is saying to you that if you own one of these units, if you live in one of these units, and you're paying rent for 12 months, the unit is going to be yours, though. So that this thing about paying rent over and over and over, called rent money, is waste money. And we're saying that you must have it to own it, that you must be in a position to go and face the bank, and you must be in a position to hold up your head and say, this is mine. I come to get a loan from you, Mr. Banker, or you, Mr. Credit Union Officer. I come to get a loan against the property that I own, because I want to be one of the big boys in the country that could borrow against collateral, use that as collateral to borrow to fund and start a new business, or borrow to fund and start something else of substance in this country that others have been doing, but that you cannot do because you have not been given the opportunity to own and create wealth in Barbados. And this platform, as long as I stand on it, will unapologetically come into St. Michael and unapologetically speak to the people of St. Michael and across Barbados on the issue of creating wealth for the black people of this country. And I'm not being racial, I am being very realistic, because we know that there are many of you who would have wanted to have upward social mobility, but could not achieve that upward social mobility because of the hurdles and the impediments and the obstacles that are placed in the pathway of your progress, but did not exist for other people who did not look like you or have an address like Deacons or Ferniehurst or Haynesville or Redmond Village. That has been the history of Barbados. Bagatelle, Eden Lodge, that has been the history of Barbados. You know it and I know it. That when your son and daughter write an application to the private sector to say, look, I have graduated university, that we, the Barbados Labour Party, made sure it's still free because the Dems made it something you had to pay for. Do not forget it. The Dems betrayed Errol Walton Barrow's legacy. Do not ever forget it. And not one of them, including Ryan Walters, has had the decency to come before you and apologize and disassociate himself and his thoughts and his philosophy from that nastiness that they did to you and your children. In my own constituency, I could take you to places where there are mothers who would tell you that they had to choose between continuing their own adult education and educating their son or their daughter. Had to sacrifice their dream that they could one day be a graduate to give themselves upward mobility in this country, because that party lick it down, kick it down, and then put mothers in a position to choose between two children. Can't send both to university at the same time. My daughter is 3 years behind my son. How I can get that do? So one gonna stay home, or one gonna go look for work, and the other one get a chance. That is where we were in 2018, and we fixed that. We fixed that. But the journey of your development must continue. Because when we come to these communities, we must come to these communities, as I do now, with a message of emancipating yourself economically and enfranchising yourself. Do not ever forget that it was this party led by this Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, who was told by the Democratic Labour Party that you would go to an institution she wanted to create, and she created it, called the Barbados Trust Fund, where you walk in with a dream. You tell Jerry Amos, the boss man in there, Skipper, I come and I have a plan. And he will assign you to somebody to work with you, to tell you what's your plan, what you want to do. I want to have whatever. Let us pull one from the sky. I got a skill doing motor mechanic work. I got my own motor mechanic shop. And they say, well, okay, let us work with you, and two things can happen. One, we can train you so that if you're starting your business, that you can make sure that you don't do like how some lawyers do, and can't separate your client money from your money, and you mix it up, and you don't understand finances. We can make sure that we train you so as to understand that you have accounts receivable and accounts payable. Where you go to pay to somebody is the accounts payable. What they owe you is where you go to receive, and that you got to keep your records properly. This is what has to be done to help our young people through the pathway of owning their own business in Barbados. The trust fund is doing that now. And then you get $5,000 as a loan. And then when you pay it back, you're entitled to get $10,000. And we come to you and say to you, as you have heard me say on Saturday night when we launched the manifesto, there are many of our young people who have excelled. But you know what's wrong with Barbados? That you get a ragtag few that run about with a gun in the hand. And they are the story that Ralph Thorne tells the world about Barbados. He sat at the floor of Parliament across from me, and he condemned your children, telling us that our children are misfits and hopeless. That is a lie, Ralph Thorne. They need a hand up. They need help. They need opportunity to grow, to be the best that they can be. And that's why this Barbados Labour Party that did what no other government in the Caribbean has done, which is to tell you that we trust you the same way that we trust those people from over in a way. I'm not being racial, but they don't look nothing like you. But to walk in this country and to sit down in front of the Prime Minister of this country and say, see my hair, I want to make sure that I can pay as little taxes as possible. But I am going to invest $5 million. I'm going to invest $10 million. And we ain't know a yang about them. We ain't even know if they got the $10 million to invest. But they say, look, give me these concessions because I am going to employ 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 170, 500 Barbadians. And we trust them. And not all of them do it. Not all of them do it. But we have to trust you. And we did. And tonight, we can stand here before you and have a record that says, oh God, man, oh Lord, I get the first signal already, and now going into high gear. And the first, we have a record that says that this government has made $28 million available, $28 million of your money, so as to enable small people like you to be able to invest in their own business, and they have done it successfully to the tune that there are 5,200 small people like you in Barbados tonight that run in their own business that did not have it in 2018 when we came to office. And no, I said office, not power. Because if you go back to Ralph Thorne's Monkey Manifesto, page after page, they're talking about power. Because that is what Ralph Thorne is interested in, power. And I can go a little further quickly, because I just talked about accounts receivable and accounts payable. And nobody will run me from this. One of the worst things that governments historically have done in Barbados, historically, is that they take little contractors, and not only governments, big business too. But the reason the Democratic Labour Party attacks me tonight is because they don't want me to speak the truth to you about the reality that must be corrected. But I will speak it, and I will never be shaken from confronting it, because there are large companies in Barbados. I know I have practiced law in this country, who have subcontracted to people who are doing tiling, subcontracted to people who are doing electrical work, subcontracted to plumbers, and they have a large contract for $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, and you bring in the little contractor, the subcontractor underneath, that go do the tiling in a hotel, that billing, for example. In a hotel, that billing, and the subcontractor does the tiling, and a month pass and can't see the money. 2 months pass, cannot see the money. And the distance between issuing that invoice and the date that you receive payment stretches, and it stretches, and the small business person has to go and take out an overdraft, at a financial house in Barbados. And that overdraft is running at 13% and 12% and 10% in this country. Why does the small man have to take out the overdraft? Because he go pay his staff, or the staff will go home and can't feed their children, which is you and your children. Why does this small businessman have to take out the overdraft? Because having then gone and spent on that particular business, he must now have inputs into his own business that he got to replace, and that comes at a cost. That is how business is done. And if it was only government that was doing this to people, it would be one thing. But it is also large businesses in this country that are doing it to you too. And there comes a time when a government that you elect must stand in the breach in order to shield you from this type of treatment, in order to put in place a policy which around the world they call factoring, F-A-C-T-O-R-I-N-G, factoring. I want you to, when it's done tonight, go to bed and you sleep and then wake up in the morning fresh-minded and go and Google it. I don't want anybody to mamaga you. I don't want anybody to play with your head. F-A-C-T-O-R-I-N-G, factoring. It is a policy understood and accepted and practiced in Great Britain. It is a policy understood, accepted, and practiced across the United States of America, which is, they say, the home of capitalism. Do you know that the American government has committed in that service of factoring $170 billion with a B, United States dollars, towards making sure that small people, micro and small businesses benefit from being able to assign that invoice. I invoice you, Downey, because you got a big company. I do work for you, but you ain't pay me. 2 months pass and I still can't get my money. So I assign a city signal. I assign my invoice to a financial institution that gives me my money immediately. so that I don't have to wait forever to get what's mine. And there are some places which are sensible enough, and some politicians who are sensible enough to understand that you, the people, cannot be asked to wait and wait and wait indefinitely. But we know in Barbados that it ain't gonna fix just by saying the people should be paid. Because we know in Barbados that for donkey years, that has been a challenge. So what do? Do we ask you to continue to hope and wait and pray that one day you will get paid a little quicker? Or do we put an arrangement in place which says from the date you're ready to issue that invoice, if you have doubt that the people can pay you immediately, you can assign it to the financial house, get your money one time, as opposed to running an overdraft at 12% for this month, run an overdraft at 12%, 2 months later, you still in that there and paying out on interest. And worse yet, because people like that over there in that Democratic Party real financially illiterate, they need financial literacy training. You know they got a lot of small business in Barbados that ain't got no overdraft facility that does use a credit card. A lot of our little micro business people operate on a credit card. A credit card. Interest on the credit card, Barbadians, is 20-somebody%. You understand? You are waiting to get back that which you should get because you issue an invoice for payment, and a month later, you can't get it, but you functioning off a credit card because you have to go on credit in order to get the money to run your business, pay your staff, meet your overheads, financial obligations that must be met every day. And we say, no, we will introduce a policy of factoring. And yes, there must be a requirement that the government honors payment. But while it takes long for government to pay, you must be in a position. And the reason why governments take long to pay and have always around the world taken long to pay, as you would have just heard me say, in England it happens, in America it happens, in Canada it happens, here it happens, across the Caribbean it happens. Because the bureaucracy of government is slow. Across the world that is a problem. But small businesses must grow and must be able to access money. And so therefore we say you assign your invoice to the financial institution pays you your money, and then government will pay them. Government should not be eased of the obligation to pay the full amount. And there is a school of thought that says that if you are doing this, and you do it with government, that you should get your full amount of money. But you have a choice. You have a choice. Nobody's going to say to you that you must not, that you should not wait if you want to wait. You could wait 3 months to get your money, if that works for you. You could be happy to ride your credit card for 3 months at 20-somebody%, if that works for you. But as the gentleman here next to me saying, that is financial madness. You could be happy to run an overdraft for 3 months at 10 and 12%, if that works for you. That's more madness. And when I said to this country that there may actually be a requirement, if you're not dealing directly with government but dealing with the private sector, say for example, the first example of somebody who building a hotel and subcontract the tailor, that they get your money quick, but that you actually may now have to lose a 2%. I think that's what it is in America, a 2%. As opposed to losing how much ever percent on your overdraft facility, 12. Well, you do the maths, 2% versus 12 every month for 3 months, that's 36. Tell me which make more sense to you. And the Democratic Labour Party will have you believe that it's the worst thing in the world. But Barbadians, this is a time now where we have to realize nobody out there feels that they owe us as a country a living. And we as a people must look to each other to find financial solutions that keep this country going and keep you going as business people. They don't want to talk about the fact that your motor mechanic business has equipment, the motor mechanic has tools, the contractor has tools, and those tools and equipment have value, and that you should be able, if that is your business, or if you're a farmer up in the country and you got crops and you got livestock that has value, or if you're fishing and the fisher boat got value, that you should be able to confront a financial institution and say, I want a loan. And when they tell you the garbage that they tell you, I have told your father, I have told your grandfather, I have told your grandma, and your great-great-grandma, year after year after year. For all of your lives, you know this. You go to the bank, and what do they say? What have they said to all of your ancestors in this land that you're born in? That if you don't own a piece of land, you can't get a loan. You can't get no security. But while you do not have the piece of land, you have a motor mechanic shop that going tools that value at $40,000. While you do not have a piece of land, you go a fishing boat that value at $400,000. And we say that should now be the collateral against which you can borrow to further advance yourself. And I will be damned if I am backing off of this issue, because that is the transformation agenda that Barbados must have to lift you up to a new plateau, a new platform of economic opportunity that opens the doors for you in the way that they have been opened to other people of other races in this country, in the land that you are born in, but you have been deprived of it. And one of the worst things in the world is that there are some of us that look like you and me that feel that you are undeserving of that opportunity. Real talk. And I do not apologize for it. Because that's what this election is about. Let's get real. Demand that y'all borrow money to go to his country, to spend on a pilgrimage in the businesses of his country. Spending on a pilgrimage as if you don't go in Macy's, you ain't went nowhere in your life. If you went in Sears, you ain't went nowhere in your life. That man has made it clear to you, you ain't so welcome. There's no other way to put it. He has made it clear. So when are we going to recognize that it ain't only him? A little bit cross from him. In countries just as cold as his right now. Just as freezing as his is right now. The people speaking with a slightly different accent. But they too have indicated that their view about you is that you are not as welcome there as you used to be before. That's what they have signaled. They have a leader of the opposition over there who look like all of you, carrying an African name. And I have sat down and watched her indicate that folks like you shouldn't be both there. It shocked me. It shocked me. But that's the world we now live in. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us be real down here. We need a new thinking in Barbados that says we must find the financial solutions to make sure that our people are financially empowered. And that it is not a world where it is all roses and lily-colored lenses. That this is a world where it is harder than ever before for everybody. But you got a government that is looking to create opportunities for you. That concept that I just talked about, where you can have collateral with things that was never used before when you're going to the bank, the motor mechanic tools, for example, that must now mean that that motor mechanic has an opportunity to trade, to go and say, I wish to take out a loan against my equipment's value. and he gets the money to do so. And that enables him to broaden his business, employ more people, sell more service, grow to the point where he's not only a motor mechanic here in Barbados, but that he could be a motor mechanic next door in St. Lucia or next door in St. Vincent. That is what we must do, that the young boys that are now putting solar photovoltaics on roofs around Barbados, because we trained them to do it, must be able to say, against the backdrop of the tools and the equipment that we have, we are now doing so much that we want to expand, and we shouldn't be limited only to Barbados, but that we want to go to put the same things on people's roof in Grenada, and put the same things on people's roof in Guyana, and put the same thing on people's roof in Dominica, because we are taking our small and micro businesses to the level of the Caribbean. And that is already happening. There are clients of the Barbados Trust Fund created in 2018 who are now selling their services into the Caribbean. And we want all Barbadians to have that opportunity. But we can't get there unless we have creativity in the way in which we set about financing small business. I said all of that the other night. All of that. And the people in the Democratic Labour Party only heard that there may be a policy which the American government says should now not only see 175 or 178 billion with a B United States dollars being directed to financing small businesses, but that by 2030, they want it to be $300 billion being done in this same thing I'm talking to you tonight. But in the Democratic Labour Party, where they are financially illiterate and refuse to read to emancipate their minds, they're going to have a problem. They're going to have a problem because they want you to believe that the world is perfect. The world is perfect, and that there should be no solution to problems that have cut the belly out of small businesses in Barbados. Why do you feel that so many small businesses in Barbados have failed? Is it that you honestly, genuinely believe that y'all are inferior? When you look in the mirror, are you seeing inferior coming back at you? That you're not as good as anybody else? The reason why it has failed is because you haven't been given the opportunities that other people have had. And you have to get the opportunities. They can bring me off the platform, and Lord knows I don't want to stop. But I want you to remember on the 11th that Neil Rowe needs your support. The Labour Party needs your support. We need you to take Neil back to Parliament. We need you to take all of the Labour Party's candidates back to Parliament. Good night, and God bless you all.
Get through, so this is what we do.